In previous episode, we have already started GraphQL server and run our first query. Now what we are going to do is we are going to build a GraphQL API for a bookstore. So for example, in this case, I have already created the schema GraphQL books. Let's say that we are building a GraphQL API for a bookstore, and for now we have just only one table, books, which has only 3 columns, right? ID of the book, title of the book, and the author. If we run that, I've already added 3 entries in our book table. So now let's go and query those using the GraphQL, query our table using the GraphQL, build our API. So for that, let's go to our code. In our code, the only change that we are doing here is we are adding the dependency for in the back package JSON for the MySQL, right? So what we are doing here, we are running this command, which will add a dependency for the MySQL. I have already run that. That's the first thing that we do. And the next one is what we do is in our index file, right? So what we do first, we are creating a connection pool to the MySQL. So for that, we are defining the local host. We are defining the host where our database is located. And in my case, I'm using my local machine. It's a local host. User is, in my case, I'm using Kafka, and the password is the password. And also we are defining the database. In my case, it's a GraphQL books, right, that I have created earlier. And in the next step, we are defining the schema. We have 2 types here. We have created one type book, which is exactly matching what we have in the books in the book table, right? So it has the ID, it has the title, and it has the author. And again, all these fields are not non-nullable, right? And the next one is we are defining 2 queries. The first query is books, which returns us list of all of the books. It returns us array. And the next one is that book, which is returning us book by ID. And now we will see that how they are, what is the implementation for those, right? Here we are defining the queries, and in the resolvers we are defining how we are exactly implementing those queries. So what we do here is we are using that connection pool that we have created earlier, right? This connection pool to the database. We are querying for our first API, for our first endpoint in the GraphQL. So what we do is we are fetching all the books from our books table, and for the second one we are fetching books where the book ID is equals to whatever ID we are passing here, and we are returning that ID. That's it, and the rest is the same as it was before. So we are starting Apollo server here. So let's start our Apollo server, and let's see that that exactly works as expected. So we can go ahead here and we can start our server again. So our server has started, and now let's go and check our fetch our books, right, from the database. So for that, let's go again to the Postman, and in the Postman I am using the URL is the URL where our server is running, the localhost 4000, and first thing that let's fetch all the books, right? So what is convenient in the GraphQL, so we can go ahead and not GraphQL, I mean that what is convenient in the Postman is, so we can choose. So we are choosing, for example, books here, or we want to return only title and author. So we are choosing books here, and we are returning all the books. So and returns exactly all the books that we have in the database. We have 3 entries, and it returns us the 3 entries. But what's the advantage of the GraphQL over the rest, right? One of the advantages that we have talked about that also earlier is that we can fetch any field that we want. If we need only authors, so what we can do here, we can only fetch the authors, right? So we can only fetch the authors, and it returns us the authors. Or let's say that the titles, again, it will return us only the titles here. So let's fetch it one more time. So it will return us only the titles. That's the book. And the second one, that let's test our book endpoint, right? Our book query. In the book query, again, what we need to do is we need to pass here the ID. Let's fetch the ID. Let's fetch the book with the ID of 2. So we are passing here ID, and when we run it, it returns us the second book.